Abigail Spanberger is celebrating victory tonight after the Democrat defeated Republican Winsome Earl-Sears in the race to be Virginia's next governor.
Spanberger making history. She'll be the Commonwealth's first female governor. Here's a look at the numbers as we have them now, with almost all precincts reporting Spanberger a relatively easy victory by 14 points over Earl-Sears, thanking those tonight on her campaign and saying that she'll bring leadership that will focus on problem solving, not stoking division, and that she will always put Virginia first. Kate Nectarline and Avery Davis had their eyes on the governor's race all night and join us live in studio with more.
Hey, Stephen, Aaron. Yeah, that was quite a race. I think, any question we had over whether there would be a split ticket is now answered. It was a complete Democratic sweep from top to bottom of the executive in Virginia.
Absolutely. And of course, I think across the country, all eyes have been on this governor's race. And it's an historic night for a lot of reasons, but especially because Virginia has just elected its first female governor. Virginia was one of only a handful of states that hadn't elected either a female governor or a female U.S. senator. So it's a big night here that Democratic Abigail Spanberger accepted the victory in Richmond just about 2 hours ago, saying that it's going to send a pretty big message to the rest of the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tonight, we sent a message to the whole world that in 2025, Virginia chose pragmatism over partisanship. We chose our Commonwealth over chaos.
And of course, Winsome Earl-Sears, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl-Sears, another woman who had the hopes of becoming the first female governor, of course, accepting defeat in Leesburg earlier tonight. Here's what she had to say about the race.
I thank you for giving me this very great opportunity. Now, I have to tell you, I am like everyone. I wanted to wait until every single ballot was counted. It's just because I have faith. And I wanted to wait. I wanted to wait because I know that God had called me for this purpose.
And this is just kind of another example of a pattern in Virginia where, the Commonwealth typically votes against the White House, having that election in the year after the presidential election. And of course, polling throughout the campaign season has shown Spanberger pretty, safely ahead. Of course, it got a little tighter when there were some controversies later in the election season. Of course, when there were some controversies further down the ballot, but polling throughout has shown her with a pretty safe lead.
Yeah, not just polling. I mean, the money of this race, it didn't draw in as much fundraising as 2021, actually, but Spanberger out fundraised Sears almost 2-to-1. That's $65 million total raised by Spanberger compared to $35 million by Earl-Sears. I think a lot of times, speaking with Center for Politics, we can really question the polls, but it was clear throughout that, Spanberger had a clear lead, both in finances and also in polling.
Of course, and that wasn't the only thing that was to Spanberger's favor this year, was it?
No, actually, the biggest thing to Spanberger's favor, according to Center for Politics, was actually the man in the White House, Donald Trump. Here's what scholar Jeff Shapiro, who spent many years covering state politics with the Richmond Times-Dispatch before coming a scholar for Center for Politics, had to say about the race.
But if it illustrates anything, it illustrates the enthusiasm for Spanberger, at least as a measure of distaste for Donald Trump. His name's been on the ballot 3 times, and 3 times he's been rejected. And now it appears he's been repudiated a 4th time, if only indirectly, by Abigail Spanberger.
Yeah, it's a big night, not just for Virginia. Obviously, this is the race that we've had our eyes the closest on, but out there in the country, people are actually paying attention to other races. And I know you spoke to Larry Sabato about kind of the context this race is in.
So this is, we think we're very special here in Virginia, but we're actually sharing, the national spotlight tonight with the mayoral race in New York City, with Proposition 50 in California, and of course also with a similar governor's race in New Jersey. So there's been a lot on the table tonight that political analysts are looking at, and many people like to see the Virginia and New Jersey races as well as what's on the ballot in New York and California is kind of a bellwether and an indicator of what could happen in the 2026 midterm elections. A lot of people like to kind of use that as that prediction. But when I spoke to Larry Sabato, he said, of course, be wary of that, because when we're talking about California, when we're talking about New York especially, and of course New Jersey's been a little bit closer, and when we're talking about Virginia, we're talking about places that have leaned pretty blue in those presidential elections as of late. And, you know, we can't necessarily say for sure that this is going to be an absolute 100% certain indicator for the 2026 midterms.
But notice what ties them all together. They at least have a partial blue color. So I don't know that it's going to tell us all that much about what happens in 2026, which, by the way, is dominated, at least in Senate races, for example, by contests in red states.
We will continue to provide the latest polling results and updates on our website.
That is 29news.com. For your news at 11, I'm Avery Davis.
And I'm Kate Nichterline. Back to you, Steve.